Welcome back to our channel, The Crypto Society. Today we're here to talk about what Edward Snowden just said about Bitcoin. But before we get started, subscribe to our channel to never miss a crypto update. So without any further delay, let's get started, quickly. Edward Snowden, a 37-year-old former National Security Agency, or NSA, computer intelligence consultant and CIA contractor, once again commented on the main digital asset, Bitcoin. Snowden's Twitter statement followed Germany's $6 trillion stimulus plan last few days to rebuild a better America. $6 trillion? It's good for Bitcoin, whistleblower Edward Snowden said Friday. The tweet has received 36,000 praise and has been forwarded more than 6,000 times. Of course, this is not the first time Snowden has talked about Bitcoin, because the whistleblower and privacy activist have been talking about this topic for the past few years. Also known as Black Thursday, Snowden said, "This is the first time since a long time I wanted to buy the currency, felt panic a bit too much, too little reason." Snowden's book sales were confiscated by the US Department of Justice, or DOJ. After the US Department of Justice announced a lawsuit against the whistleblower, Snowden also tweeted, "The conclusion is that this is good for Bitcoin." However, Snowden was not welcomed by the extremist Bitcoin crowd because he criticized the crypto assets in some of the Twitter data that Snowden recently used, and knocked out the Human Rights Foundation, or HRF's Alex Glau recent statement by Alex Gladstein. Gladstein didn't like Snowden's recent interview. The worst part of turning cryptocurrency into a dragon level of wealth is seeing good people emotionally become dragons themselves. Therefore, they are afraid that all the people they see will be threatened by not seeing the world outside of themselves. To their treasures, which led to mental paralysis, the cave, Snowden said in response to Gladstein's statement on Twitter. Sometimes informants criticize Bitcoin, but also explain that he often uses it, and have used once the technology called the world's first free monetary system. Edward Snowden, who gained fame as a whistleblower after announcing a large National Security Agency, or NSA, surveillance program in 2013, has a bittersweet relationship with blockchain. Snowden has been hired as a computer intelligence analyst in the Global Communications Division of the CIA, or Central Intelligence Agency, headquarters in Langley, Virginia. He has been granted political asylum in Russia since his explosives were exposed. Snowden attaches great importance to attracting a large number of supporters by appearing in the news, participating in public discussions, and communicating ideas on various issues through social media. His recent comments on the Biden administration's $6 trillion stimulus has received a great deal of interest among crypto enthusiasts, who he calls good for Bitcoin. Of course, this is just one of many cases Snowden talked about Bitcoin. Bitcoin holder, you are under surveillance. Edward Snowden has always been a fierce critic of government surveillance. According to him, governments around the world have adopted highly sophisticated surveillance systems to classify large public ledgers. Bitcoin's public ledger is nothing more than a jackpot for such a government. As a result, they'll often leave no stone unturned and use state-of-the-art surveillance technology to monitor them. The next most logical innovation to combat such privacy intrusions is the evolution of private blockchain cryptocurrencies like Cash, which provides privacy by default. Cryptocurrencies stay here, but no Bitcoin. Snowden believes that there are significant flaws in Bitcoin's design, such as transparency, security, transaction rates, and speculative tendencies. However, the biggest structural weakness of Bitcoin pointed out by Snowden is its public ledger, and if this is not addressed, Bitcoin will fade out in the long run. This is because Snowden prioritizes privacy over everything else. The public ledger is a record of all your Bitcoin transactions and is readily available to everyone. The existing mechanism of the Bitcoin blockchain is compromised by balancing the recording of all transactions and at the same time scaling the ability to process these transactions. This balancing mechanism is incompatible with the idea of having a lasting and sustainable ecosystem for trade. Because it is impossible to have a lifetime history of everyone's purchases, make these interactions available to everyone and make them work well on a large scale. What is the value of Bitcoin? Bitcoin's unique design allows you to mine new coins at a predetermined natural acceleration rate. In addition, there is a limit of 21 million coins. With more than half already mined, Bitcoin will soon become a fixed money supply, considering that there is no room for further growth or expansion. In an interview, Snowden points out that apart from the fact that fiat currencies are backed by the state, there are slight differences between fiat and cryptocurrencies. By comparison, the value of Bitcoin is fixed in its finite supply of 21 million and its acceptance among people around the world. Therefore, it can be safely inferred that Bitcoin has minimal basic and intrinsic value, but has highly variable, speculative value based on its true rarity. Bitcoin is slow. Bitcoin throughout is severely limited by factors such as block size and on-chain scaling. Snowden claims that Bitcoin's transaction channel can only handle about 7 transactions per second. In contrast, payment gateways like Visa and MasterCard routinely process tens of thousands of transactions per second. In Snowden's view, this was a serious drawback and limitation that existed within the Bitcoin network. Therefore, to be effective in everyday transactions and reduce the associated costs of the Bitcoin blockchain, there is an urgent need to fix glitches in Bitcoin's Lightning Network, or LN, to raise throughout to much higher levels. For Bitcoin to survive in the long run, how many hours it takes to address these critical issues, wait for the user to complete the transaction, and shelve about $20 as a transaction fee each time the network acquires it. You also need to make sure you don't have to spend it crowded. Bitcoin is incompatible with the basic rights of privacy. Snowden's complaints about Bitcoin revolve around the fact that transactions are made through Bitcoin and not private because the ledger is readily available to everyone. He insists that it should be private by design. He believes that open ledgers are very harmful and denied the notion of free-to-use private money. The public ledger forces the ledger of all companies, including competitors, to be published. This can eventually lead to a loss of leverage. Combined with the issue of digital surveillance and the rise of authoritarian regimes around the world, Bitcoin is comprehensive from a privacy perspective, as it is extremely vulnerable to correlated attacks that can steal various personal information about users. Seems to have failed. In extreme cases, accessing user history through an advanced monitoring system can reveal the identity. Bitcoin won't last, but crypto is here to stay. Edward Snowden. Exiled American whistleblower Edward Snowden took part in the conversation surrounding Bitcoin, saying that the market roadster would eventually decline, but the use of cryptocurrencies would not end with Bitcoin. In an interview with Ben Wisner, director of ACLU Speech, Privacy and Technology Projects, Snowden said that the belief in supporting Bitcoin, which acts as a global currency, is not dissipated, but simply moved to other cryptocurrencies. Rarity and belief. In response to a question from Wisner about whether Bitcoin believes it has long-term intrinsic value, Snowden compares Bitcoin to paper fiat and is the only fiat in monopoly. The difference is essential: men with guns. In his view, the basic value of Bitcoin and other blockchain-based fiat assets is very limited, but 2 things in particular guarantee that Bitcoin is viable in the short term. The first thing he said was the rarity caused by the limited supply of 21 million BTC of Bitcoin. This rarity creates competition to mine the remaining millions of Bitcoins, which in itself gives a measure of value. The second and more important factor in his view is the fact that the majority of the general public considers it a sincere medium of exchange. According to Snowden, this belief in crypto frameworks as a way to transfer real-world monetary value out of the banking network is transferable and will survive Bitcoin's death. Good utility, poor implementation. Snowden, who lives in Russia after claiming asylum in 2013, also likes Bitcoin because of the opportunities and possibilities it has created around the world. Despite his prediction of its imminent demise, it was revealed that. But going a step further, he criticized the existing blockchain hashing paradigm, stating that neither of the 2 major hashing methods is good and that new methods need to be developed. He described the proof of work as an environmental sabotage leaning in favor of the rich, and the proof of stake as direct distribution to the rich, without elaboration. So, that's all for today's video. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit like and subscribe to our channel. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section.